Right, welcome back. Yes, I bet you were expecting to see us in a different setting, but hey, we are here just to continue our Breakfast Central, and this time we do have our correspondent who is on ground to join us live from where the incidents took place. When we talk about the incidents, we're reminding ourselves of what happened in October of 2020. Bernard Akede joins us this morning. He's live there at the Lekki Toll Gate, which, if you remember, brings some form of reminiscence of what had taken place that particular day or days leading up to October 2020, starting from October 8 to October 2020. Bernard, good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Benga. Good morning, Olive.
All right.
Good morning.
What's it like? Any security operative around, cars, trucks? You know, just tell us what's happening, build up to the remembrance of October 2020.
Well, it's business as usual. Vehicles are moving as swiftly as they should on a Monday morning. But, of course, as you asked, the only difference will be the presence of police officers and security operatives. To my right, you'll see that in a few seconds. Here we have, at least I've counted about 5 police vans, and others have left to my right here, all lined up, you know, just to... I would say to be on standby in case there would be anything that would happen here. Not that we're expecting any, you know, but you can never tell. There was also a van from the Nigerian Army that also came here, I think, on surveillance, and then has eventually left. Now I'm looking back and I see that the trucks have reduced in number, but the officers are still here. Now, beyond that side, to my left as well, and that's further behind me on the left-hand side, you probably would see again in a few seconds, just beyond the vehicular movement, you'll see that there still are some police vans still on that side of the road. I think it's just basically still for precautionary, you know, measures, just in case anyone comes here, tries protesting, tries to raise placards, or in case anybody tries to foment any kind of trouble. These officers, I believe, are on ground to ensure that nothing of such happens. And, well, it's the police. They can always call for reinforcements should there be need for that. We do not hope that that will happen anyway.
Now, Bernard, I recall 5 years ago, that's half a decade, we were both on the grounds covering the incidents of SARS, the protests, day after day, up until the ninth day. What's the significance of today's memorial, and do you have wind of any sort of gatherings or activities that might happen at the Lekki Toll Gate?
Well, to start with, first of all, I'd say no, I have no information of anything that would happen, whether a gathering, some kind of memorial activity, civil society groups or organizations that would want to stage a march past here or anything. I have none of such information. I also reached out to our correspondents across the nation, and apparently, but then, you know, we can, I mean, there could be a possibility that there could be gathering event as long as we can to see that we catch any of such activities should it happen. That's one. To answer your first question, well, SARS Memorial, 5 years on, half a decade, like you did mention, of course it's different from what we saw you know, back then. For days you know, day in, day out, this particular vicinity was packed full with people, particularly youths, who were chanting songs of solidarity. There were speakers here, where there were DJs blasting music, and basically it was not just for police brutality. It was for a number of things. And if you remember, they brought out a 5-point agenda that I'd like to read out, just to remind us all, and to remind Nigerians, the actual reason why these young Nigerians came out protesting, you know, concerning the whole SARS issue. Now, when everything was ongoing, remember that the 5 points they came out with were: 1, the immediate release of all arrested protesters; secondly, justice for all deceased victims of police brutality and the appropriate compensation for their families. Number 3 was setting up an independent body to oversee the investigations and prosecution of all reported police misconduct within a period of 10 days. Number 4 was carrying out psychological evaluation and retaining of all disbanded SARS operatives before they can be deployed, and that this should be verified by an independent body. And the final point that was put out by this group was that the government should increase police salaries and that they should be adequately compensated for protecting lives and property of all citizens of Nigeria. Now, I think the question we should be asking on a day like this, 5 years on, is even if the authorities are saying, we should forget what happened, move on, there should be peace. These 5 points, which actually were key to the protest 5 years ago, I beg your pardon, have any of them been met? Is the police doing better? Have there been reforms? SARS has been disbanded, yes, but other arms of the police, is there still police brutality going on? Have people been actually compensated? We remember that there was a judicial panel that was set up. What was the result of that panel? We remember that there was a result, but were people adequately compensated? There's still some families that claim that some of their loved ones remain missing between then and up until now. There are people who cannot come out to openly say what may have happened. Some people fled the country, as we remember. So basically, I think these are the points that Nigerians should dwell on. The violence that happened here on that day 5 years ago is something that has been embedded into the history of Nigeria, particularly for the youth. We would never forget that. But then again, moving forward, have things actually changed? Has police brutality ended or reduced? Not just in Lagos, but across the country. I think these are the serious questions that should be asked.
A very, very well put, Bernard. Thank you very much for highlighting these asks, where we were then and where we are now. I wanted to ask you how today differs from last year, because I know that last year, if I recall correctly, there were tear gas canisters that were being shot at protesters or planned protesters, I don't know. I want you to sort of run us through what happened at the Lekki Toll Gate on October 20th, 2024. And then my final question would be where we stand regarding protests, especially seeing as today there's another protest scheduled to happen, this time not kicking against SARS, but freeing Nnamdi Kanu. And you have covered majority of the biggest protests that have happened in this country. So where you would analyze, how you would analyze where we are as a people regarding the right to freely protest. So it's a two-part question.
All right, taking your first question, Olive, from last year, I remember we were here as well, just as we are now. The day started quietly like this, and then, as they went on, the build-up, kind of grew, and then some protesters, I would like to call them, who actually came here with placards, were accosted by the police. As they were coming, the police was speaking to them just to ensure that nothing, that no one built up any kind of momentum. We also had a conversation with the police on ground that time, and they said that the presence, first of all, of journalists was attracting protesters, one, and that they didn't want the protesters to gather because, a pocket of protesters will eventually lead to more people coming to join. That's one. And they also talked about, which they keep saying every time, that there's a possibility that the protest could be hijacked by onlookers. Well, first, I'd like to say that, as we always put to the police, that's the responsibility of the police to ensure that peaceful protest, which is the right of the citizens anyway, doesn't get hijacked by unscrupulous elements, as they like to call them. So comparing last year to this year, it all started this way before eventually it built up. We're here for it, as we always are. But we do hope that there will be no violence. And also, to corroborate what you did say, it got to a point where some of the protesters who tried to block traffic as it was flowing had to be dispersed forcefully via deployment of canisters of tear gas by the police force. And that's something we get to see pretty much all the time. Moving forward to protests generally. Go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead. That's the second part I wanted you to answer. Where we are
so the
regarding
second part, I was
protests
going to say, yes. So where we are now concerning protests, I would say, I would give some kudos to the Lagos State Police Command, to be honest. There's been some kind of relationship between the press and the police in Lagos, such that we have some kind of understanding, particularly about the new commissioner of police. That's the CP Olonda, I believe is his name, CP Jimo, I beg your pardon, Moshood Jimo, who is quite close to the press and always willing to speak. However, there still are, a handful of police officers who sometimes can get trigger happy or can get overzealous, if you want to put it that way, and that's where the problem comes in. Also, I'd like to say that there's a difference between protesters, peaceful protesters, and people who try to take advantage of situations like that, where the protesters can conduct themselves in an orderly fashion, and then others come in to disrupt activities. But then again, that's where I would say that the police have the duty to separate the wheat from the chaff and ensure that the protesters are protected and that people who are violent are being taken care of. Going out of Lagos, finally, to wrap up the question, I think that more needs to be done, and this is speaking generally now concerning the Nigerian police. More needs to be done, first of all, and still these are some things that the SARS protesters 5 years ago clamored for. I think proper enlightenment of police officers. I think more collaboration between police and media operatives. I also think generally that the police should be more open to criticism and to protest, which are the rights of the people. The police should not be quick to heavy-handedness or should not be too quick to the use of force, in responding to protests as regards dialogue. I believe we can get there. I believe we will get there. Hopefully, I hope that we do. But protest is one thing that will not end anytime soon, because it is the rights of the people,
absolutely,
particularly when they are oppressed. And of course, security from the police and other security operatives as well is something that will never end, because it is also the right of the people to be protected.
Thank you so much, Bernard Akede, for bringing us up to speed with the situation at the Lekki Toll Gate. And like Olive said, you've been through a lot of protests, and you've had your own fair share of tear gas canister inhalation. Hopefully, we won't have any of such incidents today. And just to say, on a lighter note, when you're done with this broadcast, look at your phone. I have pictures from 5 years ago that I shared with you. Great memories of us on the field. You are now on the field, I'm in the AC. Yes.
Thank you very much, Bernard.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, Bernard, for speaking with us. We'll connect with you again.